Hello, and thank you for being here at Infidelity Tales Lab. Your presence makes sharing these stories worthwhile. Tell us, where are you tuning in from today? Big city? Small town? Share with us in the comments. Now, let's dive into today's story. The Glass House. Chapter 1. Invisible Cracks. The aroma of rosemary chicken filled the Delaney home, or what used to be the Delaney home. Vincent Nichols pulled into the driveway of the colonial-style house that now belonged solely to his ex-wife, Lorelei. 2 years after their divorce, he still felt the phantom pain of familiarity whenever he came to pick up his daughters, Sophia and Ava, for his weekend visitation. Vincent checked his reflection in the rearview mirror. Deep-set blue eyes stared back at him, framed by slight crow's feet that had deepened over the past few years. At 43, he still maintained his athletic build, though his dark hair now had flecks of gray at the temples. He'd built his construction company from nothing, with calloused hands and a determined spirit. Those same hands now tightened on the steering wheel as he prepared for another awkward exchange. He never used his key anymore, out of respect for boundaries that Lorelei herself rarely honored. Vincent approached the side entrance that led directly to the kitchen, hearing the animated voices of his daughters through the partially open window. He was about to knock when his mother-in-law's unmistakable voice cut through the air. "Your father is a disappointment," Vivian Harlow declared, her voice dripping with disdain. "Thank God you have her stepdad now." Vincent froze, his knuckles inches from the door. "But Dad's taking us to the Science Museum tomorrow." Ava, his 12-year-old, protested weakly. "Preston actually built the new wing of that museum, sweetheart," Vivian continued. "Your father just puts up cookie-cutter developments. Preston creates architectural masterpieces. There's a difference between a craftsman and an artist." Vincent's jaw tightened. Preston Brooks had been Lorelei's interior design consultant before becoming her affair partner, then her fiancé, and now her husband of 6 months. His high-end architectural firm had won several awards, a fact Vivian never tired of mentioning. "I just wish Dad would try harder," 15-year-old Sophia muttered, the words slicing through Vincent like a blade. Vincent pushed the door open quietly. The kitchen fell silent as 3 pairs of eyes turned toward him. Sophia's face flushed crimson. Ava looked at the floor. Vivian's perfectly made-up face registered momentary shock before morphing into a practiced smile. "Vincent, I was just about to call you." "The girls are almost ready," Vivian said smoothly, her southern accent thickening as it always did when she was lying. Vincent said nothing. His eyes briefly met his daughter's, noting the mixture of embarrassment and guilt swimming there. Then he looked at Vivian, 68 years old, but appearing a decade younger thanks to meticulous self-maintenance, and, he suspected, strategic cosmetic enhancements. Her steel-gray hair was styled in an elegant bob, her posture perfect, as always. Without a word, Vincent turned and walked back out to his truck. "Dad, wait!" Ava called, but he didn't stop. He drove 3 blocks before pulling over, his breathing ragged. His phone buzzed with text from Sophia. "Dad, I'm sorry about what Grandma said." Then, "Are you still coming to get us?" Vincent took several deep breaths before replying, "Need 30 minutes. Be ready." That evening, after a subdued dinner and a movie neither girl seemed to enjoy, Vincent tucked Ava into the bed in his guest room that he'd decorated just for her, with constellation decals on the ceiling. "Dad," Ava whispered as he was about to turn off the light. "Are you mad at us?" Vincent sat on the edge of her bed. "No, sweetheart, I'm not mad at you. Grandma Vivian says things sometimes, and Mom doesn't stop her." Vincent carefully controlled his expression. "What kind of things does she say?" Ava shrugged, looking uncomfortable. "That you weren't good enough for Mom. That Preston is teaching us refinement that you never had." Her voice grew quieter. Sometimes Sophia agrees with her. Vincent absorbed the pain, compartmentalizing it as he'd learned to do. "I see." After Ava fell asleep, Vincent sat in his home office, staring at an old photograph of himself and Lorelei on their wedding day. Vivian stood beside them, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. He remembered how she'd lobbied for Lorelei to marry the son of one of her society friends instead, someone with proper breeding, as she'd put it when she thought Vincent couldn't hear. He opened his laptop and pulled up a file he'd never intended to use. 3 years ago, when things were already deteriorating with Lorelai, Vincent had hired a private investigator to look into Vivian's background after overhearing a strange conversation between her and an old acquaintance at a charity gala. The investigation had yielded interesting results that he'd filed away, choosing the high road for the sake of family harmony. That high road had led straight to heartbreak, divorce, and now his daughters believing he was somehow lesser than the man who'd helped destroy their family. Vincent picked up his phone and scrolled to a contact he hadn't used in years. The clock read 11:37 p.m. as he pressed the call button. "Bryce Tanner," answered a gruff voice. "It's Vincent Nichols. Remember that file you put together on Vivian Harlow?" "Hard to forget that one," Bryce replied cautiously. "I need you to expand on it. Everything you can find. And I mean everything. That'll cost you. Some rocks are better left unturned, Vince." Vincent's voice hardened. "I'm not interested in leaving anything unturned anymore. I want the complete picture, no matter where it leads." After ending the call, Vincent sat in the darkness of his office. Through the window, he could see Sophia sitting on the window seat in her room, the blue light of her phone illuminating her face. The distance between them seemed to grow larger each day, cultivated by Vivian's constant undermining and Lorelai's passive enablement. By morning, the wheels were in motion. Vincent Nichols, the man who built homes for other families while his own crumbled, was finally going to demolish the glass house of lies that his ex-mother-in-law had constructed. And when the glass shattered, everyone would see the truth. Chapter 2. Foundation Damage. 15 years earlier, Vincent had been a rising star in Montgomery's construction industry, his company landing increasingly prestigious projects despite his humble beginnings. When he met Lorelai Harlow at a charity auction, he was immediately captivated by her vibrant laugh and the way she spoke passionately about historical preservation. Unlike the other society women circling the event, Lorelai had genuine opinions and wasn't afraid to share them. "You understand that my daughter comes from a certain background," Vivian had said during their first private conversation 3 months into his relationship with Lorelai. They were standing on the sprawling veranda of the Harlow family estate, Oak Ridge. The Harlows have expectations. Vincent, naive and earnest in his early 20s, had replied, "I understand that I love your daughter, Mrs. Harlow, and I'll spend my life making her happy." Vivian's smile hadn't reached her eyes. "Love is a charming notion, Mr. Nichols, but it doesn't maintain a lifestyle." He'd proven her wrong, or so he thought. His business thrived, and he gave Lorelai everything she wanted: the colonial house in the right neighborhood, summer vacations in the Hamptons, winter trips to Aspen. 2 beautiful daughters completed the picture-perfect life. What Vincent hadn't realized was how Vivian continued to whisper in Lorelai's ear about the life she could have had if she'd married within her circle. How Vincent was new money at best. How the Nichols name would never carry the weight of the Harlow legacy. Preston Brooks had entered their lives 7 years into the marriage. His architectural firm was collaborating with Vincent's construction company on a downtown revitalization project. Lorelai, who had put her own interior design aspirations aside to raise their daughters, was brought in as a consultant. Vincent had encouraged it, wanting to support her creative pursuits. "You should have seen how Preston respected my input," Lorelai had gushed after those meetings. "He said I have a natural eye that can't be taught." Vincent, exhausted from managing multiple project sites and the financial pressure of maintaining their lifestyle, had missed the warning signs. 3 years later, he found the text messages. 6 months after that, Lorelai asked for a divorce. Preston, with his pedigree, education, and family connections, fit perfectly into the world Vivian had always wanted for her daughter. Now, sitting in Bryce Tanner's cluttered office a week after that devastating afternoon in the kitchen, Vincent felt a cold resolve solidifying within him. "Vivian Harlow isn't who she pretends to be," Bryce said, pushing a thick folder across his desk. "The Harlow fortune didn't come from old Southern money, like she claims. Her husband, Montgomery, built it from scratch, and not always legally." Vincent leafed through the documents, his eyes narrowing. "Keep going. Montgomery Harlow was involved in some shady land deals in the 70s. He got rich quick, but there were rumors of blackmail and threats. Nothing stuck to him legally. And Vivian? Bryce leaned forward. Before she was Vivian Harlow, she was Violet Hanson from Millbrook, a small town nobody's heard of. No finishing school. No old money. She worked as a cocktail waitress at a casino Montgomery owned. She reinvented herself completely when they moved to Montgomery after marrying. Vincent absorbed this information. That's interesting, but hardly devastating. People reinvent themselves all the time. There's more, Bryce continued, pointing to another section of the file. Montgomery died under suspicious circumstances. The official cause was a heart attack, but there were rumors the marriage was on the rocks. He'd been seen arguing with Vivian at the country club the night before his death. Still circumstantial, Vincent noted. This isn't, Bryce said, sliding over a sealed envelope. Montgomery had a son from a previous relationship. A son who was supposed to inherit half the estate, but mysteriously disappeared from the will after Montgomery's death. The son tried to contest it, but withdrew his claims suddenly and moved across the country. I tracked him down. Vincent opened the envelope to find photographs of a man who looked strikingly like Lorelei. Same distinctive eyes, same chin. Does Lorelei know she has a half-brother? According to my source, no. Vivian made sure of that. She told Lorelei that Montgomery was an only child with no extended family. But here's the kicker. Montgomery's son claims he withdrew his challenge because Vivian threatened to expose evidence suggesting he was involved in his father's death if he didn't walk away. Vincent's eyebrows shot up. Evidence she fabricated? That's my guess. The son, Drew Harlow, was in another state the night Montgomery died. But he was young, scared, and Vivian was very convincing. Where is Drew now? Living under the name Andrew Halsey in Portland. Runs a successful microbrewery. Never married, no kids. Vincent absorbed this information, the strategic part of his mind already plotting a course. Has he ever tried to contact Lorelei? Once, about 20 years ago. Vivian intercepted it, told him Lorelei wanted nothing to do with him. Vincent nodded slowly. And I'm guessing Vivian's social standing, the country club memberships, the charity board positions, all of it, is built on the foundation of being Montgomery Harlow's grieving widow and the family's social legacy. Exactly. She's cultivated this image of Southern aristocracy. If people knew she was a cocktail waitress who potentially blackmailed her stepson and lied to her daughter about her family. The glass house shatters, Vincent finished. That night, as he drove home, Vincent called his lawyer, Patricia Trish Morales. I need to revise my custody petition, he told her. Vincent, we've been over this. The courts aren't likely to change the arrangement without substantial. What if I can prove that my daughters are being poisoned against me through deliberate alienation? Trish's tone changed. That's different. Do you have evidence? I will, Vincent promised. And I need one more thing. Contact information for a man named Andrew Halsey in Portland. As he hung up, Vincent glanced at the photo of his daughters on his dashboard. Sophia's recent coldness and Ava's confusion made more sense now. They weren't just being influenced by their stepfather's wealth or status. They were being systematically turned against him by a woman who had built her entire life on deception. Vincent turned onto the quiet street of his modest but comfortable home. The home he'd moved to after giving Lorelei the house in the divorce settlement because he thought it would be better for the girls to maintain stability. He'd been a reasonable man, a fair man. He'd taken the high road at every turn. The high road had led him here, alone, vilified to his own children, and replaced by a man who was deemed more worthy by a woman whose own worth was built on lies. No more high road. It was time to excavate the truth, no matter how dirty the dig. Chapter 3. Load-Bearing Walls. Drew Harlow, now Andrew Halsey, had his sister's eyes. Vincent noticed it immediately as the man approached his table at Riverside Brewing Company, the Portland microbrewery Drew had built from nothing after leaving his past behind. You said this concerns my father's family? Drew asked cautiously, sliding into the booth. Vincent nodded, offering his hand. Vincent Nichols. Thank you for meeting me. Drew's handshake was firm, his gaze direct. At 52, he had the weathered good looks of someone who spent time outdoors, with salt and pepper hair and laugh lines around his eyes. Nothing like the polished veneer of Vivian's world. I should warn you, I don't have much connection to the Harlow name anymore, Drew said. I know. That's partly why I'm here. Vincent placed a photograph on the table. Sophia and Ava at last year's Christmas. These are my daughters. Their mother is Lorelei Harlow. Drew froze, his eyes fixed on the photograph. Lorelei, he repeated softly. My half-sister. Yes, the half-sister you tried to contact 20 years ago. Drew's eyes snapped up, suddenly guarded. How do you know about that? I've been doing some research on Vivian Harlow. A shadow crossed Drew's face. Vivian, he said, the name coming out like something bitter. What's your interest in all this? You said you're divorced from Lorelei. I am, but my daughters are being affected by Vivian's influence. Vincent chose his words carefully. I need to understand exactly who she is and what she's capable of. Drew was silent for a long moment, then signaled to a server. We're going to need something stronger than beer. 2 hours and several whiskeys later, Vincent had a clearer picture of the man Montgomery Harlow had been and the woman who had taken his name. Dad wasn't perfect, Drew acknowledged. He cut corners in business sometimes, but he loved me. After my mom died, he made sure I was part of his life, even though Vivian hated it. Did he love Vivian? Vincent asked. Drew laughed without humor. He was infatuated with her. She was stunning back then, and she knew exactly how to make him feel like the most important man in the room. But toward the end, he trailed off. Toward the end, Drew swirled his whiskey. He called me about a week before he died. Said he'd discovered something about Vivian, something that changed everything. He was going to confront her, then come visit me to explain. But he never made it. Heart attack. Very convenient timing. Drew's voice was flat. I tried to investigate, but Vivian had everything locked down. Then came the will. Dad had apparently changed it 2 days before his death, cutting me out completely. You contested it. Drew nodded. Until Vivian showed up at my apartment with a folder of documents suggesting I'd been embezzling from my father's company. Documents that would have been enough to trigger an investigation, maybe charges. Were they real? No, but they were convincing. Vivian made it clear, drop the case, never contact Lorelei, and the documents would disappear. Fight her, and I'd lose everything, including my freedom. Vincent leaned forward. Would you be willing to tell this story to Lorelei? To explain what Vivian did? Drew looked pained. I tried once. Vivian intercepted my letter and called to tell me Lorelei wanted nothing to do with her father's illegitimate mistake. It gutted me. Lorelei never saw that letter, Vincent said firmly. She doesn't even know you exist. The realization dawned slowly on Drew's face. All these years, Vivian has built her entire identity, and Lorelei's, on a foundation of lies. She's now working on my daughters, turning them against me because I don't fit her vision of what their father should be. Drew was quiet for a long moment. What exactly are you planning, Vincent? Justice, Vincent replied simply. For you, for Lorelei, who never knew her brother, and for my daughters who deserve to know the truth about their grandmother. Vivian is dangerous when cornered. You need to understand that. Vincent's eyes hardened. So am I. Back at his hotel, Vincent called Trish Morales with an update. I've got Drew's statement recorded and notarized, he told her. He's also agreed to DNA testing to prove his relation to Lorelei. That's good, Trish said cautiously. But challenging the narrative Vivian has created won't be easy. She's entrenched in the community. Respected. Respect built on lies, Vincent countered. I'm not just doing this for custody, Trish. This is about my daughters growing up with the truth. And what is the truth, Vincent? That their grandmother reinvented herself? Many people do. The truth is that she potentially blackmailed her stepson, possibly had something to do with her husband's death, and has deliberately kept Lorelei from knowing her only living blood relative. She's manipulating my daughters into believing I'm somehow less worthy than Preston because I don't come from the right background. Ironic considering her own origins. Trish sighed. Just be careful. This kind of revelation could hurt everyone involved, including your daughters. They're already being hurt. They're being taught to value superficial things, to judge people based on status rather than character. That's not who I want them to become. After hanging up, Vincent received a text from Bryce. Found something big. Montgomery Harlow's medical records from the night he died. The attending physician noted traces of a substance that could have triggered his heart condition. Initial query was overruled by the chief medical examiner, who was married to Vivian's best friend. Call me. Vincent stared at the message, a chill running through him. Then he dialed a number he rarely used. Sanderson answered a clipped voice. Leo, it's Vincent Nichols. I need a forensic financial analysis done. Specifically, unusual payment from Vivian Harlow to a Dr. Eleanor Whitley around October 1983. That's nearly 40 years ago. Records might be hard to find. If anyone can find them, it's you. And there's more. I need everything you can get on Preston Brooks. Current finances, background, the works. I've been playing defense long enough. As he ended the call, Vincent received another message. This one for Sophia. Dad, there's some big charity gala thing next weekend for Preston's firm. Mom says if you don't want to take us that weekend, she understands. The dismissive presumption that he would gladly give up his time with his daughters for Preston's event ignited something in Vincent. He typed back, I'll be picking you both up as scheduled. This is my weekend. The response came quickly. But Grandma Vivian already bought us dresses and everything. Preston is receiving an award. Vincent took a deep breath, then wrote, I'm sure Preston can receive his award without my daughters being there. I'll see you Friday at 6 p.m. He put down the phone and turned to his laptop, opening the file containing all of Bryce's findings on Vivian Harlow. By exposing Vivian, he would be appending Lorelei's world too. There would be fallout. His daughters might initially blame him, but some foundations were too rotten to be saved. Sometimes, the only option was to tear everything down and start fresh. Vincent began drafting an email to Drew, outlining the next steps in their plan. The phone call he'd made the night, he overheard Vivian in the kitchen had set everything in motion. By morning, Vivian's carefully constructed facade would begin to crumble, and his daughters would finally see the truth about the woman who claimed to know what was best for them. Chapter 4. Tremors. The first tremor in Vivian's carefully constructed world came on a Tuesday morning, exactly 17 days after Vincent overheard her in the kitchen. Lorelei called him, her voice tight with controlled anger. Did you change the custody agreement without telling me? Vincent, reviewing blueprints at a job site, kept his voice level. No. What are you talking about? I just got served papers requesting a formal review of our arrangement, citing new evidence of parental alienation. I see. Vincent had instructed Trish to file the paperwork, but hadn't expected it to be processed so quickly. You see? That's all you have to say. Lorelei's voice rose. You're accusing me of turning the girls against you? That's absurd. Is it? Vincent stepped away from his crew, lowering his voice. Sophia barely looks at me during visits. Ava asks me why I don't try harder. Your mother tells them I'm a disappointment while you stand by silently. There was a pause. You're blaming my mother for your failing relationship with our daughters? I'm stating facts, Lorelei. Documented, witnessed facts that will be presented in court if necessary. Another pause, longer this time. When Lorelei spoke again, her voice had a new wariness. What exactly are you doing, Vincent? Creating accountability. He ended the call, turning back to his work with a calmness that belied the storm he was orchestrating. That evening, Drew Harlow's existence entered Lorelei's world in the form of registered letters sent to her, Preston, and Vivian. Vincent had helped Drew craft the letters, factual, unemotional summaries of who he was, his relationship to Montgomery Harlow, and how Vivian had systematically kept him from his rightful inheritance and relationship with his half-sister. Vincent was having dinner with his daughters when Lorelei called again. I need to speak with you, she said, her voice shaking slightly. Alone. I'm having dinner with our daughters, Vincent replied calmly. It can wait until tomorrow. Vincent, this is important? Yes, so is my time with Sophia and Ava. I'll call you tomorrow. He hung up, turning his attention back to the girls, who were watching him curiously. Is Mom okay? Sophia asked, her expression guarded. She's fine. She just has some questions about a legal matter. Vincent smiled, steering the conversation back to Ava's science project. Later that night, after the girls were asleep, Vincent's phone buzzed with a text from a number he didn't recognize. "This is Preston. We need to talk. You're making a serious mistake." Vincent didn't respond. Let them wonder, worry, and wait. The carefully constructed narrative that Vivian had created and that Preston and Lorelai had benefited from was beginning to shift. The next morning, Leo Sanderson delivered his preliminary findings. There was a payment from a company owned by Vivian Harlow to Dr. Eleanor Whitley's personal account 3 days after Montgomery's death. $50,000, significant money in 1983. And the company? A shell corporation that Vivian created 6 months before Montgomery died. On paper, it was a fashion import business. Never imported a single dress. Vincent nodded slowly. And Preston? Leo's expression changed. That's where things get interesting. Preston Brooks isn't quite who he claims to be either. Vincent listened as Leo detailed Preston's carefully hidden financial difficulties. Despite his firm's prestigious projects and awards, Preston was leveraged to the hilt. His apparent wealth was a house of cards built on loans and creative accounting. He's been using client deposits to fund his lavish lifestyle, Leo explained. Classic Ponzi scheme elements. If his current projects don't generate substantial profits soon, the whole thing could collapse. Does Lorelai know? Based on their joint finances, I doubt it. She brought significant assets into the marriage, her portion of the Harlow estate. On paper, they look solid, but Preston has been systematically moving money around. I suspect he married her as much for her name and connections as for access to capital. Vincent absorbed this information, pieces falling into place. Preston's sudden appearance in their lives, his courtship of Lorelai, the pressure from Vivian to choose him. It painted a different picture than the love story Lorelai believed. One more thing, Leo added. Preston's firm is currently bidding on the Riverside Development Project. The one your company was shortlisted for last month. Vincent's company, Nichols Construction, had indeed been a frontrunner for the prestigious downtown project before mysteriously being removed from consideration. The project would provide financial stability for years to come. Who's on the selection committee? Vincent asked, though he suspected the answer. Harold Whitley is the chairman. Dr. Eleanor Whitley's son. The connections were becoming clear. Vivian's influence extended through a network of relationships built over decades. Relationships potentially rooted in secrets and mutual benefit. That afternoon, Vincent met Lorelai at a quiet cafe away from prying eyes. She looked tired, her usually perfect appearance slightly frayed at the edges. "Is it true?" she asked without preamble. "Do I have a brother?" Vincent slid a folder across the table. DNA test results. Drew is your half-brother, Montgomery's son from his first marriage. Lorelai stared at the folder without opening it. "Why would Mother keep this from me? My entire life." "Ask her," Vincent suggested quietly. Lorelai's eyes flashed. "I did. She says this Drew person is an opportunist trying to claim a connection to our family. That you've somehow found him and are using him to get back at her." "Back at her? For what?" "For," Lorelai faltered. "For supporting me during the divorce. For helping with the girls. Is that what she told you?" Lorelai's gaze dropped. "Why are you doing this, Vincent? If it's about custody." "It's about truth," Vincent interrupted. "It's about our daughters being raised to value the right things, honesty, integrity, hard work. Not status, appearances, or family myths. My mother has devoted her life to maintaining our family's legacy. A legacy built on lies," Vincent said evenly. "Montgomery's legacy should have included his son. Your legacy should have included knowing your brother. Our daughter's legacy should include understanding where they really come from, on both sides." "And what about Preston?" Lorelai asked, an edge creeping into her voice. "Why are you investigating him?" Vincent raised an eyebrow. "How do you know I am?" Lorelai flushed. He said there were inquiries being made about his business. Financial checks that seemed unusual. Interesting that he'd noticed routine business inquiries. Vincent kept his expression neutral. Unless there's something he's concerned about being discovered. This is ridiculous. Preston's firm is very successful. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows what they're told, Vincent replied. Just like everyone knows, the Harlow name represents old Southern aristocracy, not a self-made man and a cocktail waitress who reinvented themselves. Lorelai's face paled. That's a lie. Ask your mother where she grew up. Ask her about Millbrook and the Golden Nugget Casino. Ask her about the night your father died and why Dr. Whitley received a large payment 3 days later. Lorelai stood abruptly, gathering her purse. You're trying to destroy my family because I chose Preston over you. Vincent remained seated, his voice steady. You're wrong, Lorelai. I'm trying to save our daughters from becoming collateral damage in a legacy of lies. A legacy that's about to collapse whether I'm involved or not. Is that a threat? It's an inevitability. Vincent slid a business card across the table. That's Drew's number. Your brother has spent decades believing you wanted nothing to do with him because of a lie Vivian told. Maybe it's time you heard his side of the story. As Lorelai left, Vincent noticed her slip the card into her pocket. The tremors were spreading. Soon they would reach the foundation itself. Chapter 5. Structural Integrity. The first public crack in Vivian's carefully constructed facade appeared at the Montgomery Historical Society's annual luncheon. As the Society's long-standing patron and board member, Vivian was scheduled to give opening remarks, as she had for the past 20 years. Vincent made sure Drew Harlow, with his undeniable resemblance to Montgomery, had a front row seat. Mrs. Harlow, could you comment on recent claims that Montgomery Harlow had a son from a previous marriage? Called out a reporter from the local paper, just as Vivian approached the podium. The momentary flash of shock on Vivian's face was quickly masked by a practiced smile. I don't know what you're referring to. If you'll excuse me, we have an important program to begin. Actually, came Drew's voice as he stood, I'd be happy to comment. Montgomery Harlow was my father. The room erupted in whispers as people turned to look at the stranger claiming connection to one of Montgomery's most prominent families. Security, Vivian called sharply. This man is disrupting our event. Before I'm removed, Drew said calmly, loud enough for everyone to hear, I'd like to publicly invite my half-sister, Lorelai, to contact me. I've spent decades believing she wanted nothing to do with me, only to discover recently that she never knew I existed. DNA tests confirming our relationship are available to anyone interested in the truth. As security approached, Drew handed out business cards to those nearby. Montgomery Harlow Brewing Company will be opening in Montgomery next month. I'm reclaiming my father's name and my place in his legacy. Everyone is welcome, especially family members who've been kept in the dark. The fallout was immediate and intense. By evening, the story had spread throughout Montgomery's social circles. Vivian's phone rang constantly, while Preston frantically tried to contain the damage. Vincent watched from a distance, making sure his daughters were shielded from the immediate chaos. He'd arranged for them to attend a weekend STEM camp they'd been interested in, far from the unfolding drama, but still within his custody time. The Montgomery Historical Society is requesting verification of Vivian's claims about the Harlow family history for their records, Trish reported during their evening call. Apparently, several board members are concerned about potential misrepresentation. And the custody review? Moving forward, the judge has agreed to interview the girls privately, given the evidence of potential alienation. And Vincent, there's something else. The Riverside Development Committee has reopened the bidding process after anonymous concerns were raised about the selection process. Vincent absorbed this news with controlled satisfaction. Any movement from Lorelai? She's requested a private meeting with Drew, according to my contact, scheduled for tomorrow. The dominoes were falling, but Vincent knew the most dangerous phase was yet to come. Vivian wouldn't surrender her carefully constructed world without a fight. That fight began with a call from Harold Whitley to Vincent's office. Mr. Nichols, I understand you've been making certain inquiries about my mother's professional activities in the 1980s. Vincent had been expecting this. Dr. Whitley, I'm simply gathering information relevant to my custody case. By investigating a payment made to my mother nearly 40 years ago. Harold's voice was tightly controlled. I don't see the relevance. The relevance is establishing a pattern of behavior by Vivian Harlow, behavior that now affects my children. My mother was a respected physician. Any payment she received were for legitimate medical services, including the $50,000 paid 3 days after Montgomery Harlow's death. Vincent asked mildly, "That seems like an expensive house call." A tense silence followed. "What exactly do you want, Mr. Nichols?" "The truth, Dr. Whitley. Nothing more, nothing less." "Truth is rarely simple," Harold replied coldly. "And pursuing this particular truth could have consequences for many people, including your daughters. Vivian Harlow has significant influence in this community." "Is that a threat? A reality check?" "You're not the only one who can dig up the past." After the call ended, Vincent received a text from an unknown number. "Watch your back. You don't know what you're dealing with." Vincent forwarded the message to Trish and Leo, then continued with his workday. He'd anticipated intimidation tactics. What concerned him more was ensuring his daughters remained safely out of the crossfire. That evening, Vincent received an unexpected visitor at his home. Preston Brooks stood on his doorstep, looking significantly less polished than usual. "We need to talk," Preston said without greeting. Vincent stepped aside, allowing him to enter. "I'm surprised you come here." Preston paced Vincent's living room, agitation evident in every movement. "You need to call off whatever you're doing. It's gone too far." "I'm not doing anything but uncovering truth." "Truth?" Preston laughed bitterly. "Do you have any idea what you're unleashing?" "Vivian is unraveling, making threats, calling in favors. Lorelei is questioning everything." "Good," Vincent said simply. "She should question everything." Preston stopped pacing, fixing Vincent with a hard stare. "Is this about getting her back?" "Because I can assure you, that's not happening. This has never been about getting Lorelei back. This is about protecting my daughters from Vivian's influence and lies. By destroying their family, by giving them a foundation of truth instead of carefully constructed fiction." Preston ran a hand through his usually perfect hair. "Look, I know Vivian can be difficult. Believe me, I live with her interference daily. But this crusade is hurting innocent people. Like you," Vincent asked pointedly. Preston's expression shifted. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I know about your financial situation, Preston. The loans, the shuffling of client funds, the precarious state of your firm." The color drained from Preston's face. "That's proprietary business information. Information that would interest your clients, I imagine, and your wife." Preston sank onto Vincent's couch, suddenly looking exhausted. "What do you want? Money? Because I'm telling you right now, I don't have it. I want my daughters to grow up understanding what really matters. Not status or appearances, but integrity and truth." Vincent leaned against the wall, studying Preston. "You encouraged Vivian's undermining of me to my daughters. You positioned yourself as the superior father figure." "I never." "You did," Vincent cut him off. "And now you're here because you're scared of what else might come out. Because there's more, isn't there, Preston?" Preston was silent for a long moment. "Vivian knows things. About everyone. It's how she maintains control." "What does she know about you?" Another long pause. "My background isn't exactly what's on my official bio. Before I was Preston Brooks, award-winning architect, I was Peter Brentwood, son of a handyman who couldn't afford to send me to community college, let alone the Ivy League schools on my resume." Vincent hadn't expected this particular confession. "You fabricated your credentials?" Preston laughed hollowly. "Reinvented myself, just like Vivian did. She figured out somehow, about a year after Lorelei and I got together. Made it clear that my secret was safe as long as I was useful." "Useful how?" "Supporting her narrative. Playing the role of the perfect son-in-law from the right background. Giving Lorelei the life Vivian thought she deserved." Preston looked up, meeting Vincent's gaze. "I do love Lorelei, you know. That part is real." Vincent studied the man who had replaced him in his family's life. "Does Lorelei know any of this?" "No." "And finding out would devastate her." Preston's voice hardened. "Which is exactly why you need to back off. You're not just exposing Vivian. You're potentially destroying Lorelei too. Lorelei deserves the truth about her mother, about her brother, about you. Even if it breaks her, even if it turns your daughters against both their parents. Is that really what you want?" Vincent considered this. "What I want is for my daughters to grow up with authentic relationships based on truth." The current path leads nowhere good. Preston stood. Vivian is coming for you. She's already talking to people, looking for leverage. Whatever you've done, whoever you've been, she'll find it and use it. I've never pretended to be something I'm not. Everyone has secrets, Vincent. Everyone has weaknesses. Preston moved toward the door. Just think about what I've said. For everyone's sake. After Preston left, Vincent called Leo. I need comprehensive security on my home and office. And I want someone watching my daughters at this STEM camp discreetly. That's serious? Leo asked. Vivian's getting desperate. When people who've maintained control through manipulation start losing that control, they can become unpredictable. Next, Vincent called Drew to update him on the situation. Lorelai agreed to meet tomorrow, Drew confirmed. She sounds conflicted. Be patient with her, Vincent advised. This is shattering her entire understanding of her family. As he ended the call, Vincent noticed headlights outside his house. A car parked across the street, engine running. A warning, perhaps, or simple surveillance. The structural integrity of Vivian's glass house was failing. But as it cracked and splintered, the danger of flying shards increased. Vincent checked his home security system, double-locked his doors, and prepared for whatever came next. The foundation was crumbling. Soon, everything built upon it would follow. Chapter 6. Pressure Points. The morning brought news that sent shockwaves through Montgomery's business community. Preston Brooks Architecture was under investigation by the state licensing board for irregularities in client fund management. The firm's accounts were frozen pending review. Vincent learned about it through a flurry of texts and calls from industry contacts, many asking if his company might be taking over Preston's ongoing projects. He deflected these inquiries, focusing instead on his scheduled meeting with the judge overseeing his custody review. Judge Mariana Rodriguez had a reputation for cutting through drama to focus on children's welfare. She studied Vincent over reading glasses as he sat in her chambers. Mr. Nichols, I've reviewed the evidence of potential parental alienation. It's concerning, but not yet conclusive. I've scheduled interviews with your daughters for next week. Vincent nodded. Thank you, Your Honor. However, she continued, I'm more concerned about the very public situation unfolding with the Harlow family. Your daughters are undoubtedly being affected by these revelations. That's exactly why I'm pursuing custody modification, Vincent explained. My daughters are being raised in an environment of manipulation and falsehood. The recent revelations about Vivian Harlow are just the tip of the iceberg. Judge Rodriguez removed her glasses. Let me be clear, Mr. Nichols. If I determine that you've orchestrated this public spectacle primarily to gain advantage in your custody case rather than out of genuine concern for your children's welfare, it will not work in your favor. I understand, but these truths needed to come to light for my daughter's sake, not for custody points. You seem very certain of your position. I am. My daughters deserve to know their uncle. They deserve to understand their real family history, not the fabricated version Vivian created. And they deserve to form their own opinions about me, not have them shaped by Vivian's obvious bias. The judge studied him for a moment longer. I'll reserve judgment until after speaking with your daughters and ex-wife. But Mr. Nichols? Yes, Your Honor. Whatever the outcome, I hope you've considered the long-term impact of this approach on your relationship with your children. Courts can mandate visitation, but they can't mandate trust or respect. Vincent left the courthouse with the judge's words echoing in his mind. Had he gone too far? Was he risking his daughter's love in pursuit of justice? His phone rang. Lorelai. I met Drew, she said without preamble, her voice thick with emotion. He's my brother. I can see my father in his face. Vincent remained silent, letting her process. My entire life, Mother told me Dad was an only child, that his parents died young, that there was no extended family. She erased half of who I am. Lorelai's voice cracked. Why would she do that? Control, Vincent answered simply. An inheritance. A long pause followed. Preston's business is in trouble. Serious trouble. I heard. Did you have something to do with that? Vincent chose his words carefully. I made some inquiries. The investigation is a result of what those inquiries found. Our lives are falling apart, Vincent. Everything I thought I knew. I'm sorry it's happening this way, Vincent said, and meant it. But living in a glass house built on lies was never sustainable. The girls are confused, scared. Sophia keeps asking questions I don't have answers to. Tell them the truth, Lorelei, as much as they can handle at their ages. But the truth. Another long pause. Preston isn't who I thought he was either. He told me everything last night. This surprised Vincent. That was brave of him. Or desperate. Lorelei's voice hardened slightly. Mother is coming unhinged. She's making threats, calling in favors. She said she'll handle you if I don't get you to back off. What does that even mean? It means she's running out of options. Be careful around her, Lorelei, and keep the girls away from her until things stabilize. After ending the call, Vincent drove to his current job site, a community center renovation downtown, to check progress and clear his head. Construction had always centered him. The honest work of building something real, something that would stand the test of time. He was reviewing electrical plans with his foreman when Leo called. Vivian's been busy, Leo reported. She's meeting with a man named Ray Donovan, former detective, now works private security with a reputation for playing rough. Vincent frowned. Any idea what she's planning? Nothing specific, but I'd watch her back. Also, there's been unusual activity in one of Vivian's shell companies. A large withdrawal followed by cash payments to several city officials. Which officials? Building inspector's office, fire marshal, health department. All offices that could potentially cause problems for your business. Vincent had anticipated this. I've kept my paperwork clean for decades. They won't find anything. They don't need to find something real, Leo warned. Just create enough smoke to distract from Vivian's situation. That evening, Vincent received a text from Ava. Dad, are you okay? Grandma Vivian says people are saying bad things about our family because of you. Vincent's heart clenched. Despite Lorelei's assurance that she would keep the girls away from Vivian, clearly that hadn't happened. He called Ava immediately. Hey, sweetheart, he said when she answered. Dad, what's happening? Everyone's upset, and no one will explain anything. Vincent took a deep breath. Some truths about our family history are coming to light. It's complicated adult stuff, but I promise to explain everything to you and Sophia this weekend. Mom's been crying, and Preston is really angry. I'm sorry things are difficult right now, but sometimes the truth is painful before it becomes healing. Grandma says you're trying to hurt her because you're jealous of Preston. Vincent chose his next words carefully. Grandma Vivian has said a lot of things about me over the years. Ava, not all of them true. This weekend, we'll talk about what's really happening, okay? After hanging up, Vincent called Trish. We need a file for emergency custody. Lorelei promised to keep the girls away from Vivian, but she hasn't. On what grounds? Trish asked. Family drama isn't enough. Emotional manipulation of minors in the middle of a family crisis. Vivian is actively trying to turn my daughters against me, while simultaneously threatening me and attempting to damage my business. I'll draft the paperwork, but Vincent, this is escalating quickly. Are you sure this is the best approach for the girls? Before Vincent could answer, his phone signaled another call from the fire marshal's office. He switched over. Mr. Nichols, this is Marshal Wilson. We've received an anonymous tip about safety violations at 3 of your construction sites. We'll be conducting immediate inspections tomorrow morning. As Vincent managed this new challenge, a text arrived from an unknown number. This is just the beginning. Back off now or watch everything you've built burn to the ground. Vincent forwarded the message to Trish, then called Drew. Vivian's escalating, Vincent told him. Are you still willing to go public with everything? The full story, including the suspicious circumstances of your father's death. Yes, Drew replied without hesitation. I've lived in the shadow of her lies long enough. But Vincent, be careful. If she had something to do with Dad's death. I know. I've got security in place. Vincent paused. Have you talked to Lorelei again? We met for dinner. She's reeling, but I think having found a brother is the one positive thing in this chaos for her. Good. She needs that connection right now. Vincent ended the call and turned to his computer, pulling up the file where he'd been documenting everything. The evidence against Vivian, Preston's confession, the pattern of Vivian's interference with his daughters, the threatening messages. It was time to bring it all into the light. Vincent drafted a detailed statement with supporting documentation, then sent it to 3 entities: his lawyer, the district attorney's office, and a trusted investigative reporter at the Montgomery Herald. The pressure points were fully engaged now. The glass house wouldn't just crack, it would shatter completely. His phone rang again. Sophia. Dad. Her voice was small, uncertain in a way he hadn't heard since she was much younger. Can I come stay with you tonight? Just me. Vincent's heart swelled with hope and concern. Of course, sweetheart. I'll come get you right now. As he grabbed his keys, Vincent knew the coming days would be difficult. But for the first time in years, his daughter was reaching out to him instead of pulling away. The truth, however painful, was beginning to set them all free. Chapter 7. Breakage Points. Vincent's living room had become a war room of sorts. Large whiteboards covered with timelines, connections, and evidence stood against one wall. His dining table was spread with documents, photographs, and transcripts of recorded conversations. Sophia sat cross-legged on his couch, absorbing everything in silence. She'd arrived the previous night, tearful and confused, and had slept in her room at his house, a room that had stood mostly empty since the divorce. So Grandma Vivian has been lying about everything? Her whole life? Sophia finally asked, her voice small. Vincent sat beside her. Not everything, but important things, yes. Especially about your grandfather and your Uncle Drew. Sophia stared at the family photos Vincent had arranged. Old pictures of Montgomery Harlow next to recent ones of Drew. The resemblance unmistakable. Mom said Preston lied about his background too. But he's not really from some fancy family. Vincent nodded. People sometimes reinvent themselves, Sophia. That's not always wrong. The problem is when those reinventions hurt others, or when they're used to manipulate people. Like how Grandma Vivian says you're not good enough because you didn't come from a good family like Preston supposedly did. Vincent's heart ached at the matter-of-fact way she said this. Yes, like that. Sophia picked at a loose thread on her sweater. She's been saying stuff like that for years. I used to get mad, but then... She trailed off, looking ashamed. Then you started to believe it, Vincent suggested gently. A tear slipped down Sophia's cheek. I'm sorry, Dad. Vincent pulled her into a hug. You have nothing to apologize for. You're 15, and the adults in your life were feeding you a particular story. That's not your fault. His phone buzzed with a text from Leo. Heads up. Vivian made bail. Released 20 minutes ago. Vincent hadn't expected her to be arrested quite so quickly. The evidence he'd provided to the DA about the suspicious financial transactions related to Montgomery's death had been compelling, but he'd anticipated weeks of investigation before any action. What is it? Sophia asked, noting his expression. Just business, Vincent replied, not wanting to worry her. He sent a quick text to the security team watching his house, then turned his attention back to his daughter. Before he could speak, the doorbell rang. Vincent checked the security camera on his phone. Lorelei stood on his porch, looking distraught. Ava was beside her, clutching her backpack. He opened the door, concern immediately washing over him at Lorelei's disheveled appearance. Can we come in? She asked, her voice ragged. We need somewhere safe. Vincent ushered them inside, his worry deepening when he noticed a bruise forming on Lorelei's wrist. What happened? Lorelei sank onto the couch beside Sophia, who immediately curled into her mother's side. Ava ran to Vincent, wrapping her arms around his waist. Mother tried to take the girls, Lorelei explained, her voice shaking. She showed up at the house, said we needed to leave town immediately, that you had fabricated evidence against her, and she needed to protect us. When Mom said no, Grandma got really scary. Ava murmured against Vincent's shirt. She tried to grab my arm and pull me to her car. Vincent's blood ran cold. Did she hurt you? Ava shook her head. Preston stopped her. He got between us and told her to leave. Lorelei rubbed her wrist absently. She was like a different person, Vincent. The things she said, the wild look in her eyes. She shuddered. Preston called the police, but by the time they arrived, she was gone. Where's Preston now? Meeting with his lawyers. His firm's accounts are still frozen, but they're allowing client projects to continue under supervision. Lorelei looked around at the evidence boards. You've been building a case for months, haven't you? Since I overheard Vivian in your kitchen, Vincent admitted. But I'd had suspicions before that. I just never acted on them, thinking it was better for the girls if I took the high road. The high road, Lorelei repeated, a bitter note in her voice. That's what Mother always called weakness. Anyone who didn't play her game was taking the high road because they couldn't compete on her level. A tense silence fell, broken by the chime of Vincent's phone. A text from Trish. Emergency custody, hearing granted. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. Judge Rodriguez. That was my lawyer, Vincent explained. I filed for emergency custody yesterday after learning Vivian was still having contact with the girls despite everything. Lorelei stiffened. You're still pursuing that? Even now, it's a precaution, nothing more. Vincent met her gaze directly. I'm not trying to take the girls from you, Lorelei. I'm trying to protect them from Vivian. I don't need a court order to keep my mother away from my children. Not anymore. Lorelei's voice hardened. I've seen enough. I'm glad to hear that. But legal protections matter, especially when someone is becoming unstable and potentially dangerous. A car horn sounded outside, 3 short bursts. Vincent checked his security camera again to see Drew's rental car in the driveway. That's your uncle, Vincent told the girls. He came to town to help with everything that's happening. Sophia perked up. Can we meet him? If your mother agrees, Vincent replied, looking to Lorelei. Lorelei hesitated, then nodded. He's your family too. You should know him. As Vincent went to the door, his phone buzzed with an alert from his security system. Motion detected at the back of the house. He quickly checked the camera feed to see a familiar figure moving through his backyard. Get away from the windows, he ordered sharply, his voice causing everyone to freeze. Lorelei, take the girls to the basement. Now, what's happening? Lorelei asked, already gathering the girls. Vivian's here. Vincent moved quickly to his safe, retrieving the gun he kept locked inside. Go. I'll handle this. As Lorelei ushered the frightened girls downstairs, Vincent texted Leo and his security team, then opened the front door to wave Drew inside. Vivian's here, Vincent told him in a low voice. She's around back. Police are on the way, but we need to make sure she doesn't get inside. Drew's expression darkened. Let me talk to her. She won't expect me. Too dangerous. We don't know her mental state or if she's armed. A crash from the kitchen interrupted them, the sound of breaking glass. Vincent moved quickly, positioning himself in the hallway with a clear view of the kitchen door, his gun held at his side. Vivian, he called out calmly. The police are on their way. Lorelei and the girls aren't here. It's just me. Liar. Vivian's voice was almost unrecognizable, high and strained. I saw them come in. You've turned them against me with your lies. No lies, Vivian. Just truth. Truth about Drew, about Montgomery, about who you really are. You know nothing about me. The kitchen door pushed open slightly, and Vincent caught a glimpse of Vivian's hand, holding something metallic that glinted in the light. Drew stepped forward despite Vincent's warning gesture. But I do, Violet. I know everything about you. A shocked silence followed his use of her birth name. Drew, Vivian's voice faltered. You can't be here. I'm exactly where I should be, Drew replied steadily. With my family. The family you try to keep me from for decades. You don't understand. Vivian's voice took on a pleading quality. I had to protect Lorelei, to give her the life Montgomery wanted for her. By erasing me? By possibly killing my father when he discovered your lies. The door pushed open wider, revealing Vivian fully. Her normally perfect appearance was in disarray, hair loose around her shoulders, makeup smeared. In her hand was a garden trowel, not a weapon as Vincent had feared. I didn't kill him, Vivian whispered. The heart attack was real. I just helped along. He was going to leave me, take everything we'd built. He'd found out about my past, was threatening to expose me. Drew stepped closer. So you what? Adjusted his medication? Added something to his food, a powder in his evening drink. The doctor said it intensified the effects of his heart condition. Vivian's eyes were distant, lost in the past. It wasn't supposed to kill him. Just make him too ill to meet with his lawyers the next day. I needed time to fix things. Vincent kept his position, watching as decades of lies unraveled before him. Vivian had just confessed to contributing to Montgomery's death, whether she'd intended to kill him or not. And then you threatened me with false evidence to keep me quiet, Drew continued. Kept me from my sister. Controlled Lorelai's life with lies. Vivian's expression hardened. I gave Lorelai everything. Status, connections, the right life. I protected her from your father's mistakes, his first family, his questionable business dealings. You didn't protect her, Vincent interjected. You controlled her, like you've tried to control my daughters. Vivian turned her gaze to Vincent, hatred blazing in her eyes. You were never good enough for her. A construction worker with dirt under his fingernails, playing at being a businessman. Yet I built something real, Vincent replied calmly. Not a facade, not a glass house of lies that shatters when the truth hits it. The wail of police sirens grew louder outside. Vivian seemed to deflate suddenly, the trowel dropping from her hand. It's over, isn't it? She asked, her voice small. The lies are over, Drew confirmed gently. But maybe something true can begin now. For all of us. As police officers entered the house, Vivian didn't resist when they led her away. The confession she'd made would have serious legal consequences, but in that moment, Vincent felt no triumph. Only relief that his daughters were safe and sadness for the pain Vivian's decades of deception had caused everyone. Lorelai emerged from the basement with the girls, tears streaming down her face. She'd heard everything through the heating vent. Mom, Sophia approached cautiously. Are you okay? Lorelai pulled both daughters close. I will be. We all will be. Drew stood awkwardly to the side until Lorelai reached out a hand to him. Thank you, she said simply, for being here, for being part of our truth. As police officers took statements and secured the scene, Vincent watched his family, broken and healing all at once. The glass house had shattered completely, but from its shards, something stronger might yet be built. Chapter 8. Rebuilding. 1 month after Vivian's arrest, Vincent stood in the doorway of his daughter's shared bathroom at his house, watching as they readied for school. The new custody arrangement, joint physical custody with alternating weeks, was still an adjustment, but a positive one. The girls seemed lighter somehow, as if freed from an invisible burden. Dad, can we stop for breakfast sandwiches on the way? Ava asked, brushing her teeth. Sure, but we need to leave in 10 minutes, Vincent replied, checking his watch. Sophia was applying minimal makeup, a new, less sophisticated look that had emerged since Vivian's influence had been removed from her life. I have debate club after school. Is it okay if Uncle Drew picks me up? He wanted to show me the new brewery location. Vincent nodded. Just let me know when you're heading home. The casual domesticity of the moment struck him. How normal it felt, how right. The road to this point had been difficult, but necessary. Vivian remained in custody, facing charges related to Montgomery's death. Her confession, made in front of witnesses, had been damning, though her lawyers were pursuing a diminished capacity defense based on her mental state. The full story of her deception had become public knowledge, sending shockwaves through Montgomery's social circles. Preston had managed to salvage his firm, though in a diminished capacity. The investigation had revealed financial mismanagement, but stopped short of finding criminal fraud. He'd been transparent with Lorelai throughout, and to Vincent's surprise, their marriage had survived, changed, but intact. Do you think Mom will come to my science fair next week? Ava asked as they drove to school. She said she might be in New York then. She'll be there, Vincent assured her. She's just busy with the gallery opening. Lorelai had returned to her first love, art and design, opening a small gallery featuring local artists. The Harlow name still carried weight, though its meaning had transformed. Are you and Mom ever going to be friends? Sophia asked suddenly from the back seat. Vincent considered this. We're learning to be better co-parents. That's the most important thing. But you don't hate each other anymore, Ava observed. We never hated each other, Vincent corrected gently. We just lost our way for a while. After dropping the girls at school, Vincent headed to his office for a meeting with Drew. Montgomery Harlow Brewing was renovating a historic downtown building, and Nichols Construction had won the contract, a partnership that symbolized the healing taking place. Drew was waiting in Vincent's office, reviewing blueprints. Morning, he greeted. Just looking at the mezzanine plans. I think we can preserve more of the original woodwork than we initially thought. Vincent poured them both coffee. How's Lorelai doing with the gallery preparations? Good. Focused. It's helping her process everything. Drew took a sip of coffee. She visited Mother yesterday. Vincent raised an eyebrow. How did that go? About as well as you'd expect. Mother's still alternating between denial, justification, and blame. The psychiatrists say she's showing signs of a personality disorder that's been masked for decades by her controlled environment. And Lorelai? Drew shrugged. She needed closure. I don't think she'll be visiting again anytime soon. They turned their attention to the building plans, discussing structural concerns and preservation approaches. Their business relationship had evolved naturally from their shared goal of protecting Lorelai and the girls. Later that afternoon, Vincent received a text from Sophia. Uncle Drew showed me the brewery designs. So cool. Can I intern there next summer? Please say yes. Vincent smiled, typing back. We'll discuss it. How about dinner with Drew tonight? I'll cook. The response came quickly. Yes. Can we invite Mom and Preston too? Uncle Drew mentioned wanting to talk to Preston about designing another brewery location. Vincent hesitated only briefly before replying. Of course. Tell them 7 p.m. That evening, Vincent's kitchen, once a lonely place, was filled with conversation and the aroma of his signature lasagna. Sophia was showing Drew her debate notes. Ava was explaining a science project to Preston, who was offering genuine design suggestions. Lorelai was setting the table, moving around Vincent's kitchen with familiar ease. Never thought we'd be here, Lorelai murmured as she helped Vincent serve the salad. One big dysfunctional functional family dinner. Life takes unexpected turns, Vincent replied. Thank you, she said suddenly, for having the courage to shatter the glass house. I didn't see it then, but we were all suffocating inside it. Vincent nodded, accepting her gratitude without words. As they gathered around the table, he looked at the faces of his expanded family, his daughters, their mother, her husband, her brother. All connected by truth now, rather than fiction. The healing wasn't complete. There were still difficult moments, still adjustments to be made. But the foundation was honest now, built on reality rather than carefully constructed illusions. As they ate and talked, laughed and debated, Vincent thought about the phone call he'd made that night, the call that had set everything in motion. It hadn't been about revenge, not really. It had been about truth, about legacy, about what his daughters would inherit from all of them. Not a glass house built on lies, but something stronger, something real, something that could withstand the storms of life without shattering. Chapter 9. Solid Ground. 3 years later, Vincent stood on the observation deck of the newly completed Harlow Nichols Community Center, watching as the ribbon-cutting ceremony preparations unfolded below. The project, a joint venture between his construction company and Preston's architectural firm, represented more than just a building. It was a symbol of how far they'd all come. Nervous about your speech? Drew asked, joining him at the railing. Vincent chuckled. Not my favorite part of the job. Well, you've got quite the cheering section. Drew nodded toward the gathering crowd, where Sophia, now 18 and preparing for college, was helping direct volunteers. Nearby, Ava was explaining the center's sustainable features to a local reporter, her passion for environmental science evident in her animated gestures. They've grown so much, Vincent observed. Not just in height. They've had good examples, Drew replied. All of you, showing them how to rebuild after everything fell apart. The past 3 years had brought changes no one could have predicted. Vivian had been convicted of involuntary manslaughter in Montgomery's death, but due to her age and declining health, was serving her sentence under house arrest at a secured medical facility. She'd had minimal contact with the family by mutual choice. Lorelai had thrived as a gallery owner, discovering a confidence and purpose that had been suppressed under Vivian's influence. Her relationship with Drew had deepened into a true sibling bond, healing wounds neither had fully acknowledged before. Preston's firm had rebuilt its reputation through transparent business practices and innovative designs. His marriage to Lorelai had evolved into something more authentic than its beginning, a partnership based on who they really were, not who they pretended to be. Most surprisingly, Vincent and Preston had developed a grudging respect that had gradually evolved into a genuine professional relationship and eventually an unlikely friendship. They would never be close, but they had found common ground in their commitment to the girls and their shared vision for projects like the community center. "Dad," Sophia called from below. "They need you for the final sound check." Vincent waved acknowledgement. "Duty calls." As he made his way downstairs, he passed the wall of recognition where donors' names were displayed. Montgomery Harlow's name was prominently featured, a nod to the true legacy Drew and Lorelei had reclaimed for their father. The ceremony itself was brief but meaningful. Vincent and Preston each spoke about the center's mission to provide educational and recreational opportunities for underserved communities. Lorelei, as the art program director, outlined the classes and exhibitions planned for the coming year. When it was Sophia's turn to speak as the youth representative, Vincent felt a surge of pride. "This center represents what's possible when we build on truth instead of illusion," she said, her voice confident and clear. "My sister and I have learned from our parents and extended family that authentic foundations create spaces where real growth happens." Her words resonated deeply with Vincent. The journey from that devastating moment in Lorelei's kitchen to this day had been difficult, painful at times, but necessary. After the ceremony, as community members toured the new facility, Vincent found himself standing with Lorelei, watching as Ava excitedly showed Preston a design flaw she'd spotted in one of the classrooms. "She's definitely got your eye for detail," Lorelei observed. "And your creative approach to solving problems," Vincent added. Lorelei smiled. "We did good, didn't we? Despite everything." "Because of everything," Vincent corrected gently. "The truth set us all free, even when it hurt." Later that evening, the family gathered at Drew's Brewery, now a successful local establishment, for a private celebration. Sophia was deep in conversation with Drew about her college plans. Ava was sketching design modification for the community center's garden space, while Preston offered suggestions. Lorelei was sampling Drew's newest creation, a beer named Clear Vision IPA, with a winking acknowledgement of their family journey. Vincent stepped outside for a moment of quiet reflection. The night was clear, stars visible despite the city lights. He thought about how different this might have been if he'd chosen differently that night. If he'd confronted Vivian immediately, if he'd responded with anger rather than strategy, if he'd prioritized revenge over truth. His phone buzzed with a text from Sophia. "Where'd you go?" "Uncle Drew is about to toast, and everyone's looking for you." As Vincent turned to go back inside, he caught his reflection in the brewery's window. Older now, a few more gray hairs, but with clear eyes and an unburdened expression. When he walked into the kitchen that day and heard Vivian's cruel words, he could never have imagined the journey that would follow. The pain, the revelations, the fracturing of what had seemed solid. But from those broken pieces, something stronger had emerged. Not perfect, nothing human ever was, but authentic, built on solid ground instead of shifting sand. A family redefined by truth rather than appearance. As he rejoined the celebration, surrounded by the people who had traveled this difficult road with him, Vincent knew that the glass house was well and truly gone. In its place stood something far more valuable, a home with walls strong enough to protect, but transparent enough to let in light. A place where his daughters could see clearly and build their own lives on foundations of truth. Drew raised his glass. "To solid ground," he toasted, meeting Vincent's eyes with understanding. "To solid ground," everyone echoed. And as Vincent looked around at the faces of his family, biological and chosen, past and present, he knew that some foundations, once properly laid, would stand the test of time. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.